Good evening. Yeah, till yesterday, we were working on the Git related concepts, right? So today we'll start with GitHub. What exactly a GitHub is? So GitHub is nothing but actually, we have a place, to host the repository or workplace for everyone. So where exactly we can store all the repository related information and the real repository is also exists at the GitHub. Okay, so so there are two ways that you can host your repositories. One is online, that is on the cloud, and the second one is offline, and that is self-installed on your server. Okay, so we will learn about the most popular Git hosting service, GitHub. This is owned by Microsoft, right? So it helps every team member to work together on the project from anywhere and makes it easy for them to collaborate. Okay, GitHub helps all the team members to stay on the same page and stay organized. Okay, so yeah, so just just remember, like the GitHub is okay. So the GitHub is to store all the repository information, okay, into at one place, and it can be utilized but with all the team members, okay, uh, for their coding and everything, so they are going to connect to the GitHub and get the latest code, whatever it is available, and then they are going to start their work, right? So it so this GitHub is like to store all the repository related things, and it keeps always the developers and other people to get the latest code, and it will be, yeah, it actually helps to collaborate all the developers, from one, like sorry, yeah, so it can be the collaboration between the developers, right? It will be like very easy, okay, with this, if the team is working on a project, okay, so together, so it will be like very easy to collaborate, okay, between them. So now actually, we know that what exactly GitHub is doing. So GitHub allows you to keep both the local and remote copies of your project, right? So a project that you can publish it among your team members as they can use it and update it from there itself. Okay. So, but yeah, so we just wanted to know why it is popular, like among the community, right? So the repository is so large, okay, that it has 25 million users, for the largest shared repository in the world, right? So what is actually more than the population of, actually it is 25 million user, is like it is more like population of one of the countries. So, and this is the one of the world's largest software development platform. So that's why it has actually very good exposure on, so to so many developers. Okay, yeah, so like, so the exposure, right, putting your project to a shared public repository makes it instantly discoverable for like 25 million users. Okay, so GitHub provides simply unmatched exposure and insights compared to any other platform, and you can easily discover code written by others, learn from it, and even use it for your own projects. But that is happens only when their code is available for public. Okay, so if they have enabled a private or something, then we will not be able to see it, and will not be able to access that code. Okay, so versions control on GitHub are very similar to MS Office or Google Drive. Okay, so it tracks all the changes or updates, okay, made to your project, and who makes them, right? So you can also check the detailed change log that you know neatly hosts all the relevant information of the changes. Okay, so how to install GitHub, right? So you can just navigate to the GitHub, github.com, desktop.github.com, and just download and run it. Okay, so yeah, so the basic installation. Okay, so that way you can create in local, uh, you can install the GitHub in your application in your local system. Okay, so let us learn how to initialize a repository, right? So in earlier, actually, the story whatever we are seeing, okay, Dave hired a, for a keeping records, actually. So Dave was the person who was responsible to keep the records of changes made by script writers, right? So but where is he gonna store those records, right? So he needs a place for everything. So that is a place, we call it as repository. Okay, so the repository comes here whenever we require a storage. Okay, so we already know that, like, a Git repository is a virtual storage of your project, and it allows us to save the versions of your code which you can access whenever it is needed, right? So to create a new repository, so we have certain commands that Git provided to us. We can use git init command. Okay, so git init is the one-time command to use during the initial setup of the new repository. So executing this command will create a new .git, okay, directory in that location. Okay, so the same way, as we know, we have certain commands, like, to create a new repository, and we might be having like lot of other commands which can perform our daily needs, right? So one of it is cloning. So why do we need the cloning repository, right? So if you want the same code, okay, of the repository in your local computer, okay, so there is an option that Git provides, right? That is clone. So git clone is one of the command that you can just clone the existing repository you know to your local, and it will create the exact replica of the repository in your local computer. Okay, so that means whatever the code was there under that under that repo, it will be copied to your local computer. Repository can be cloned just like the YouTube video. Okay, you can download to watch it when you're offline. So how to clone a repository, right? So to clone a repository, go to the repository page which you want to clone, and press clone or download button, or copy the code or URL that appears after pressing the button. So when you copy that URL, and there is a command called git clone, and you just paste that URL over there and click enter. So that's it. It is going to clone the entire repository for you, and it will create a local repository for local local folder, okay, the repo for you on the same, on the same repository. So in simple words, like, git bash is a command line prompt for Windows. Okay, so it allows to type git commands that make sure source code management easier through versioning and commit history. Okay, so this is like, git bash is like command line prompt. Okay, where you can execute all these commands: git clone, git init, okay, git push, git pull. So all those commands that you can you can execute them under that. Okay, so what is exactly the work tree, right? So the name itself tells what it means, right? Work tree is the area where you are currently working. Okay, so it is where your files, store, right? So the area is also known as untracked area of Git. Okay, so one thing that you need to keep in mind is that the changes will not be saved unless we explicitly save them. So to check what are all the changes that you have done, there is a command that which is going to help us. It is git status. Okay, when you execute this, this is going to show you the files in your work tree and the files in your staging area. So the files in our work tree means like, which are all got changed, and staging area means, okay, so it is kind of ready to push it, to the repository. Okay, so for staging area, so we know that, there is a person Dave. Okay, so the man was hired, by the script writers for keeping the change records, right, of updates. So one day Bob, script writer, made some changes in the script or updated the script. Okay, so now any of script writer wants to specifically see changed part of the script. Okay, so what are they going to do? So that is, the staging area is the part, okay, that we need to use when the git starts tracking and saving changes that occurs in files. Okay, so this is about it when it comes to the staging area. Okay, so you tell git that I want to track these specific files, then git moves them from your working tree to the staging area, so where you can access it. So for this, we are going to use. Just a minute, sorry. Okay, so when it comes to the commit, right, on GitHub, saved changes are called as commits. Okay, so each commit has an associated commit message. Okay, and it is a description explaining why a particular change was made. Okay, so commit messages capture the history of your changes, and so other contributors can understand what exactly and where exactly, what exactly and why it got changed, right? So I guess, you are aware of the word commit. Okay, so the commit command is basically used to save your changes to the local repository. So they are core building blocks units, okay, of a git project timeline. Okay, so you can think of commit as a snapshot, okay, or milestones along the timeline of your git project. Okay, so they are created with the git commit command. Okay, to capture the state of a project at the point of time. So you should know that Git snapshots are always committed to the local repository. Okay, so for this, like what we need to do, there are two important commit commands that we are going to do. So one is git add and the other one is git commit. So if you are ready to save a copy of the current state of the project, so you make changes with git add. Once you're satisfied, then we utilize git commit. Okay, so git add is going to help us, to add all the files whatever we wanted to commit. So we have to use the git add first, and the everything will be added to the staging. And then when you click on when you execute the git commit, so all will be applied to your local repository. Okay, but when everything is applied to the local repository, so what about remote, right? So let's learn how to push the code changes whatever you committed to a local repository, to the remote repository. So when we are talking about what is remote repository, so when you cloned this when you clone this yeah, so when you clone this repository into your local, right? So that means, like, the remote repository is still there at the GitHub, right? So what exactly this remote repository, right? So remote repository is a in Git is a common repository that all team members use to exchange their changes. So every member can have access to the repository and make the changes which everyone can access. Okay, so in most cases, such a remote repository is stored on a code hosting like a GitHub or an internal server. So that means, like, till now you are working on the local repo. Okay, so whatever you done the changes, and you committed till to the local repository. So now whatever the changes that you are going to push it to the remote, okay, so it that changes will be visible for everybody, and they can download from here, right? So because everybody will be connecting to the remote GitHub repositories, right? So okay, so now till now actually we were working on the local repositories only. So now actually, each and every developer has their own local repositories, but eventually whatever the code that they have done, actually it has to come to the remote repository, and it has to go through the deployment, for that change. And yeah, so for those things, we have the remote repository, and there are certain stages that we need to follow when you commit the code to when you push the code to remote repository, right? So yeah, so we know, right, how to create a new repository in GitHub. So if we have a local repository but want to convert into a remote repository, so there is only after creating a repository on GitHub, you will get a URL for your repository. Okay, so they just copy that URL, and uh, now the point, what we need to do, right? The local repository, whatever we have it, so we have to execute a command called git remote. Okay, and add origin. Just give that repository URL. That's it. It is the local repository will be connected to your remote repo. Okay, so once it is connected, actually we need to push the code, whatever we have done, okay, in our local repository, it has to be pushed to the remote repository, right? So for that, we do have a command called git push. Okay, so git push, will be helping us, to push all the code from the local repo to the remote repository. So this pushes the code from master branch in the local repository to a master branch in the remote repository. So So yeah, we just thought of like like Git remote add, so which will help us to connect uh, or create a remote repository for the same repository URL, and then we are going to use the git push command, okay, to push all the code changes whatever we have it in the local repository. Okay, so now we'll just check on the dispute. Okay, so generally dispute is kind of whenever we have some issues with the code commits, and whenever somebody changes some other code, okay, which might affecting the other people, okay, who are connected to the same repository. So that time actually we have these disputes. Okay, so how exactly we are going to save that, right? We are going to stop these problems. So there is a concept called branching in the git. Okay, what it is going to do, so the main in the repository, okay, so the main code will exist either in the develop or master branch, and nobody will be having access to it to change the code directly in the master branch. Okay, so for that they need to create a new branch for themselves, and using the master branch, and they're going to create a specific branch name for that, for the work that they are going to do, and they will commit all the changes to that branch first. Once they have good, okay, once they are good, they are going to you know push all these changes to the master branch. Okay, so how that process will work, right? We are going to check in the next steps. So with the help of branching, there are multiple people that they can work on their own projects or their own stories, okay, at the same time, parallelly. So it will not affect any other people branches, okay, because let's say multiple people are working on the same project, okay, they are allowed to create a separate branches for their code, and once everybody is done, okay, and tested properly, then they are going to combine these things, and sorry, and they're going to combine these things, and and push it to the master branch later, right? So how we are going to create uh you know a branch, right? So when you create a branch, right, in your project, you are going to create an environment where you can try out your new ideas, right? So changes you make on a branch which will not affect any other person's changes, okay, or the main branch wherever you created this branch, right? So if you are creating, if you are going to work on some bug fix or something, we can do multiple trials, okay, which on the future branch or a bug fix branch, whatever the branch that you created. So until unless you merge these changes to some master branch, the changes will not be available for any of the persons, okay. So nobody can see it until unless they can come to your future branch or bug fix branch, whatever you created. Okay. Okay. So what if you did some changes in your code stored in the repository, and so I guess you want your team members to get notified about it, right? So otherwise we will be in some serious issue because about you not informing about this. So how do you do that, right? Whenever you completed the changes and you wanted to let them know you have done the changes, and it is ready for the review, right? So in that place actually pull request comes into the picture. Okay, so pull requests are mechanism for a developer to notify team members that they have made some changes, okay, and they are completed a future. Okay, once the future branch is ready, okay, the developer files a pull request, then he can add multiple approvers for that, and you know to review the code from their side. Yeah, so pull request is kind of, it's more than just a notification. So it's a kind of discussion room for everybody to discuss the changes that we made. So if there are any problems or if with the changes, teammates can post their feedback as a comment, okay, in the pull request itself, and even improve the future by pushing the follow-up commits, right? So the pull request is like, you know, kind of it helps us to review the code whatever we committed into the branch. Okay, so when you file a pull request, you are requesting that another developer pulls a branch from your repository into their repository. Okay, so you need to provide four pieces of information when you create a pull request. One is source repository, and the destination source branch, and the destination repository, and the destination branch. So So I guess, like combining something to from a single entity is what the merge means. Okay. So when you create a pull request, right? So once that pull request is got approved, like that means, your changes are looking good, and, it is ready to, like, everybody approved it, to proceed with the merge, right? So what exactly the merge, right? Git merge is a way of putting different history back, together again. Like, there is a branch that you are trying to, you know, for as you mentioned, there is a remote branch that you wanted to push the code, right? So so whenever everybody approves, and when you click on the merge button, okay, so what Git is going to do, the piece of code that whatever you changed, right, it is going to merge that changes with the branch, the remote branch, whatever you have given in the Git merge. Okay, sorry, Git pull, right? Whenever you're creating the pull request. So the git merge command allows you to take the independent lines of development created by the git branch and integrate them into a single branch, right? So whatever the changes that you have done, so it is going to be pushed into the remote branch, okay? And the changes will be available in both, right? So to be more specific, merging takes, okay, the contents of a source branch and integrates them with the target branch. Okay, so the source branch history remains the same, but the target branch history will changed. Okay, so adding your changes. So git merge, right, will combine multiple sequences, of commits into one unified history. Okay, so in the most frequent use cases, git merge is used to combine two branches. Okay, so merge takes two commit pointers, usually the branch tips, okay, and will find a common base commit between them. Okay, once git finds a common base commit, okay, so it will create a new merge commit that combines the changes of each queued merge commit sequence. Okay, so let us go ahead and see what are all the commands that we have. Okay, we are going to use it, when we are when we are committing, or when we use the Git repository. So first one is git config. Okay, so git config is will help us to you know add the configuration properties, okay, which are useful for commit and all other purpose. Okay, so git config, hyphen global user dot name, which is going to set your author name, okay, for all the commits. It is going to use this author name, okay, and email, the command sets that email address to use with your commits. Okay, the git config command is a convenient function that is used to set all the git configuration values on a global or local project level. Okay, so there are other things that you can still set up those properties using git config as well. Okay, so the clone method, right? We have checked that git clone, which is going to clone a git uh, remote repository, and it will create an exact copy, a replica of that in your local when you use the git clone, right? So git add, right? Git add is used to add all the local changes of your working copy to the staging area, so that those changes can be committed to your local repository. And git init, right? Git init is the command where you can create a new blank repository, and it is used to make an existing project as a git repository. Okay, so there is git commit, and where we use all the uh, commit messages that we can utilize it in the git commit, and it is going to push all the changes into the local repository. Okay, whatever the changes that you have it in the staging area. Okay, and git reset. Yeah, git reset is a powerful command that is used to undo your local changes to the state of a git repo. Okay, so you can reset or undo the changes or mistakes if made if needed, right? So checkout, right? Git checkout is going to help you to check out the code, from the version or the branch, whatever you mentioned in the command. Okay, and if you wanted to check out to a new branch, you can just utilize git checkout -b, the branch name. That will this command creates a new branch and also switches to it. Okay, so let's see all these commands. Okay, in GitHub repository, how we create a new repo and how we are going to connect with your the local application. Okay, so like Eclipse, or I know where we can commit the changes, and where we can create a pull request to approve them. So we can just verify that in creating a new repo. Okay, so let's do that once again. So I'm just logging into GitHub. Okay, yeah, just a minute. Yeah, yeah. So there are multiple repos which I have already created. So just to just to give you an update. Okay, so you can just click on new. Okay, so when you click on new, actually it is going to ask you to create a new repository. So that is whatever the repo name that you wanted to give, we can give it. So I'm just giving May repo. Okay, so description, just demo on Git. Okay, so if you want to make it public, you can make it public, or if you want to make it private, you can just make it as private. So whenever it is a private, so it is like you can manage that, who can see and who can commit the changes of this repositories. But if it is public, so anyone on the internet can see the repository, and you choose who can commit, right? So that's how it does. And yeah, so whatever the basic things that you can write it here. Okay, so if you're thinking it is a Maven project, you can just add it as a Maven project. Okay, so it is going to add that information. Okay, and if you have any license or something, yeah, we can do that. This will set them, whenever you create it, actually a master branch will be created. And if you wanted to change something, instead of master, you want something else, you can also do that, by changing the settings. Okay, so this is a basic thing. Okay, so if I click on create repository, it is going to create a repository for you, that which is called May repo, right? So it created May repo. Okay, so to pull May repo, right? What we need to do, we just need to get that repo in our local, right? So let's say um, in the Eclipse. Okay, yeah. So I'm just going to Git. Okay, so this is a Git perspective. Okay, so what we need to do, we have a remote repository now. So we just need to clone a Git repository, right? So for that, what are the steps that I have told? Like, we have to copy this, right? For cloning. Okay. So there are multiple ways you can do it from single SSH. Okay. Using a public key, and you can clone that. And there is one more way, GitHub CLI. Okay. So you can also get this code. Okay. And you can directly use it. Okay. Or else if you have a GitHub desktop, you can also open this in GitHub desktop. Okay, so let me do it in this way. Clone. Okay, so you just don't require to put anything. So if you have a GitHub already installed, okay, in your local, you don't require to add any authentication, because GitHub will automatically takes care of that. And when you click on next, actually it is showing master for me directly. So I'm gonna use that next. Okay, and so where I wanted to create this May repo, so I just need to give that destination. Okay, So I'm just giving the same location where we have the Eclipse location was there. Okay, so I'm just creating it and click finish. So when I click on finish, actually it is going to pull it. So if you see here, it just created a local repository for me. Okay, so that means it is ready for utilize for the local changes. So I'm just going to use it as import projects, and I'm just converting it to C in my local. So it just created a May repo. Where is that? Yeah, here. Okay, and it doesn't have anything, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to configure this as a Maven project. Okay, convert to Maven project. So I'm just giving this group ID Maripo and Maripo, and this one is the jar name. That's it. And when I convert it to the pom.xml, yeah, that's it. Okay, so it is now sorry, just a minute. Okay, let me close all this. Okay. Okay, so now actually this is converted into a Maven project. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just need to create the source folders. Okay, okay, so these are missing, right? So source main Java is missing, and I'm gonna create it, and source test Java is missing, right? So just a minute. So new folder. Yeah, new source folder, src/main/java. Oh, really? It is there? Oh, okay, one second. Remove, remove. Okay, so just a minute. I'm gonna create a new source folder, new source folder, src/main/java. And the next one is new src/test/java. Okay, so I just created a couple of source folders. Okay, and I'm gonna create a new class. Okay, class. Okay, yeah, it just stopped working. Just give me a second. Okay, main demo, right? Okay, so I'm just using public static void main. Git demo. Okay, yeah, just to make sure that it doesn't have any compile error. Okay, so yeah, it is done. So when you see when we created these things, right, it actually showing some question marks. Okay, so if you see here, all these things are showing some question marks. Why it is showing? Because these changes are untracked changes, right? It is in your work tree and you have done the changes, but it was not committed into your local repository as well, right? So these are all untracked. Okay. So what we need to do, we have to push them into staging first, and then once from there they are in the staging, then we have to push it, to the local repository, like, to as a commit, right? Yeah. If you see here, these are all the changes that we captured it, right? So these are all the unstaged changes, whatever we have done it in our local, right? So let me create a test file as well. Okay, we test. Okay, that's it. So when I commit all these things, okay, so when I add them to, staging, these are all the unstaged changes, and I'm just adding it to staging. Okay, so whenever you added them, to the stage it, actually it changed it to plus, right? That means these are ready to commit. Okay, so I'm just adding, my first commit. Okay, and yes, we have to change the author name. Yeah, this is my author name. Okay, and when you click on commit, right? Yeah, that's it. So once you have click on commit, actually all these changes are committed into your local repository. Okay, so that means, it is ready to push, the changes to the remote repository, right? So let's go ahead and push it. Okay, so just you need to right click on team. Okay, sorry, the project, and go to team, and there is a command called push branch master. Okay, so just execute that push branch master, and it is going to show you the branch names where exactly you wanted to push it, and just click on push. So it is going to ask you the name, and you don't require to give anything if you have the login which you already did it using, the GitHub. Okay. Oh, one second. Just a minute then. I think, for push it is required. Okay. One second. Yeah, just a minute. Okay. So let me use my GitHub. Yeah. Team push. This. Okay. Why it is not going, man? Sorry. And this might be this got expired. Okay, so let me check. Okay, just a minute. Just a minute. Okay. Okay, so okay, my all tokens are expired. So let me just generate a new token. Okay, so token name DMO. May token. Okay, just create a token. So what exactly this token is, right? If you wanted to get access to your repositories, okay, so you have to create this personal access tokens. So using these tokens, actually, you can connect your repository, and you can create, you can play with those repository with commenting all those things. Okay. 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 So every time you need to select those things. Okay. Okay. So I'm just creating a generate token, and once this token is generated, right, it will be available only for this one. Okay. So once you out of this screen, okay, so then you will not be able to see this token again. So it is very good to to save that token all the time. Okay. So yeah. Okay, I just created this token. So let me utilize this token here when I'm pushing the code. Team push branch master push. Just use the token. Okay, one second. Push to branch. Can't connect to any repository GitHub. Okay, let me check the issue. Okay, and we can connect tomorrow. Okay, and we can start committing this code. Okay, yeah, thank you. Let me know if you have any questions or something so we can, yeah.